friends, welcome back to Food Prep Guide. Today I'm showing you my workspace for my freeze-dried and dehydrator foods. One thing that I have absolutely loved looking at pictures online and YouTube videos is people's workspaces. How do they have things set up where it's the most efficient workflow? It minimizes mess. How do they have things organized? So that's what this video is going to be about. One thing to note is that I am in my little freeze dryer area, but the workspace that I'm going to be showing you is the same for my dehydrator. My dehydrator is located in my laundry room, which is a very narrow room. Like it can hardly constitute as a room. And because of how narrow it is, I can't get my camera, my tripod, my light, and all that. It's just not possible. I tried. So I'm just going to be showing you my freeze-dried setup, but all the tools and the buckets, everything that I'm going to be showing you is the same thing that I use for my dehydrator. So whether you are working with a dehydrator or a freeze dryer, I hope you can get some inspiration from this workspace video. One thing that was most important to me when setting up a workspace was minimizing mess or product loss is really what it was. When I started transferring things either from my dehydrator trays or my freeze dryer trays into mason jars or Mylar bags, I was losing a lot of product because a lot was falling out. And once it hit, like before I had a workspace, I just was using this shelf over here and it would just fall on the floor. And once it fell on the floor, I didn't want to package it up for long-term storage. It would just get swept up into the trash. So I was losing too much food to not having an efficient workflow for tools and transferring the food from the trays to the glass jars and bags. So that is mainly what I'm going to be focusing on, but I'm still going to show you just general setup for how I have this workspace done. Okay, let's get started.
By the way, if you would like help building your food storage, scroll down to the description box of this video and click this link for our free 1-year food storage plan. We calculated a year's supply of food for one person, then broke that data down into a week-by-week list of items to build your pantry on a budget. We'll send it straight to your inbox. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss all of our upcoming food preservation, pantry storage, and gardening tutorials. Now back to the kitchen.
Okay, so the room that we're in right now is actually really small as well, and I'm finding it hard to get good angles. So I'm going to do this in like two parts. I'm going to show you the table setup, and then I'm going to give you a much closer up angle and show you the tools and the actual transfer process of the food to the jars and how I try to minimize the mess. So the first part of this workspace is a 4-foot folding table. The reason I wanted a folding table was because I'm not freeze drying all the time. I kind of freeze dry in seasons, and I'm not doing a whole lot of freeze drying in the winter, and I want to be able to get rid of this table and open up that space in this already tiny room. So this is just, I got it from Walmart. It's just a folding table, 4 foot long. It has adjustable legs, and then underneath the table is where I have stored, I try to always keep a case of pint jars and a case of quart jars back here, and then I have my basket of tools, which I'm going to show you up close in just a second, and then I have an extra large mixing bowl for a very particular reason, and I'll show you that in just a second as well. Over to the left of the freeze dryer is where I keep all of my Mylar bags, my labels, a Sharpie for labeling, the heat sealer mechanism, and of course if you have a freeze dryer, you know you have to have room for a pump next to it. You also have to have room for a 5-gallon bucket for the drain hose to drain, for the water to drain into the hose after each cycle. So that's what that 5-gallon bucket is, and that's pretty much the overview of the workspace. When I'm in my laundry room doing the dehydrator, I use the top of my dryer or the washing machine as my table. So besides the table being different when I'm working with dehydrated foods, all the tools that I'm about to show you are the same. So let's hop into those. Okay, so here we are on top of the table workspace, and I've laid out some freeze-dried zucchini slices here to give you a demonstration of the 2 different ways that I package up food based on the cut and style of the food that I'm packaging. And I'm just going to package it up both different ways and talk about each of the tools that I'm using as we move through it. So one thing that I always keep underneath the table besides the jars is this basket full of tools and a large, an extra large mixing bowl. So inside this basket of tools, I have my tamp. It is regular mouth on one side and wide mouth on the other side. It's actually slightly smaller. This would be used with regular mouth jars. This would be used with wide mouth jars, and it just helps to pack down food inside the jars This is especially helpful when you're packaging up herbs, greens, powders, and that kind of thing. Something that you can push down and it doesn't matter if you crush it a little bit. I wouldn't want to use this with things like the shredded zucchini because it would typically crush it. But it's fantastic for getting herbs and making those herbs fit so much more inside of a jar. So then I also keep this oversized scoop, which I will show you in just a minute. This is one of the things that has saved me a lot of mess. And then I keep just a variety of regular mouth and wide mouth rings in here, along with regular mouth and wide mouth lids, so that I don't have to run back and forth to my kitchen or my dehydrating station or anything like that when I'm packaging up foods. Now this basket itself is actually a really extra large scoop. Let me explain that in just a second. But let me show you like the typical kind of normal way that I package up most foods. And one of the things that I was having a problem was whenever you tilt this pan down and things start falling off, if you don't have a bowl or a container that is wider than the width of the trays, it's going to make a big mess. And even when I tried to be as careful as possible and use my hand as like a shield as the food fell down, I was still making a mess and wasting product. So that's where an oversized bowl comes in. So I can just pour it all in here. And I haven't dropped a single piece on the table. So that's where the extra large mixing bowl comes in. So then we got our jar with just your typical funnel, and then this is where I brought in my scoop. I will, instead of scooping from the tray, that's what I used to do. I used to come through here and I would scoop and I would use my hand. I would use my hand like this to kind of keep it from spilling, and then balance it slowly into my funnel, and that was just a whole lot of product waste. So that's when I started switching to this mixing bowl and then use this scoop and into the funnel. And you can see I'm not wasting any product. I'm not making a big mess. It's just going in there beautifully. Okay, it's all gone. No mess, no product waste. So that is one way that I package foods. Now, if the slice or the diced or whatever cut the food is, if it's big enough to not fall out of this basket, then I'm going to use this basket, and I'll show you why in just a second. But for my shredded foods, any of my herbs, any of my powders, green powders, tomato powder, mushroom powder, this will not work good, which I'm about to show you. And so I would use anything that is shredded, powdered, herbs, anything like that would be in this solid bowl. Anything that could fall through little holes. Now, I'm going to transfer this. Hold on a minute, just a second. Okay, I mentioned that this was a storage basket, but it's also a giant scoop. So to show that, I'm just going to pour these things in here real quick. Sorry, that was way louder than it should have been. Didn't think about that. Okay, so one thing that I actually bought this for as a scoop, I didn't actually buy it to hold all the tools. I just ended up realizing that, hey, this could pull double duty, and when I'm not using it as a scoop, I could use it as a basket, and that's what I did. But I actually bought this basket from the Dollar Tree specifically for this reason. Let me get my zucchini spread out here. Okay, so I mentioned that the container that you're transferring food from your dehydrator trays or your freeze dryer trays being wider than the tray itself, and how that can eliminate food waste. And if you can see how this tray, it fits in beautifully into the size of this basket. It captures everything in there. I don't have to worry about spilling stuff all over the table or the floor. And then because this basket is flexible, you can see how flexible it is. I can pinch up at the top, and I can pinch right here and create a little funnel like that, like a little hole for the slices to come out of. So let me just pour that into this cup real quick, show you what I mean. Okay, and you can see that there's some crumbs right here, but it's just crumbs. It's not any big slices. Now, this is one reason why I'm say I don't use this for things that are shredded or are powdered, or, you know, obviously nothing, you don't want to do anything that's going to fall through these holes. But if it's something thick, like thick sliced medallions of squash or zucchini or tomatoes or, goodness, anything sliced really, it works great for. And then when you're not using it as a big funnel, you can use it as your just storage thing to store all of your scoops and your tamps and all of that in. Now I will say, like I said, this is from the Dollar Tree, $1.25. I highly, highly doubt this is food grade plastic, so if that concerns you, keep that in mind. But it's literally only sitting in this basket for what, 35 seconds, 60 seconds, just enough to transfer from the tray to the basket and into the jar. So I'm not concerned about that, but just keep that in mind in case you are concerned about that. Okay, let's talk about sealing the jars. I always keep my jars and lids handy, so I'm just going to get a wide mouth lid and a wide mouth ring. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I absolutely adore my manual handheld brake bleeder pump for getting a good vacuum seal on my dried goods. But with that said, typically when I am packaging up a freeze dryer load or a dehydrator load, that's a lot of food I'm packaging up at one time. And that can be a whole lot of muscle doing that manual brake bleeder pump. So when I am doing large batches of food in the freeze dryer like this, I use my electric vacuum sealer because it saves my muscles and it saves a whole lot of time too. So this is, it has an adapter for regular mouth and wide mouth. This is the regular mouth adapter. This is a wide mouth container, so I'm going to unscrew it so that I can access the wide mouth size. And I'm just going to put it over the lid and get it nice and snug, and then push the on button. You will see that it starts counting down. It's okay for me to tip it over like this, that won't affect it. And I'm going to let it go for, sometimes it shuts off all by itself, and other times it really doesn't. But I have noticed that typically when it hits 25, you see those numbers, how it's counting up? Typically when that number hits 25, it has a good solid seal, and that's usually when I go ahead and stop it. So you can see it hit 25. I'm going to go ahead and hit the off button. Give it just a minute. Unscrew it. Good solid seal. So since this is a dried good, I'm going to go ahead and put a ring on it. We don't want to store rings. We don't want to put rings on our canned goods, but freeze dried and dehydrated goods, totally fine. So this jar is going to be good on the shelf. It is vacuum sealed and it will last a very good long time. So this device has really come in handy. Whoops, I'm doing it upside down. Has really come in handy when I'm packaging up really large batches of food like this. With this adapter on, this is the one that you would use for regular mouth. So I highly recommend that. I keep my brake bleeder pump in my kitchen cabinet, kitchen drawer, because it's really easy to just whip out and reseal a jar that I opened for cooking with that night. And if I have goods that are left in there and I know I'm probably not going to use that again for another month or two, I'll go ahead and give it a quick vacuum seal and put it back in the cabinet. I'll have this linked for you in the description box below, as well as all the other tools that you see in this video. Oh yeah, so another thing that I wanted to briefly mention was if you are using a dehydrator tray. Now, I think this is something that just comes naturally to people. This is not going to be like brand new news. But most dehydrator trays, your liners come out, and they're flexible, obviously. And so it's really nice because all you have to do is create a little funnel that goes into your can like that. So it eliminates the need for the scoop and our extra large funnel basket thing. It's a basket that we're using as a funnel. But I hope that was helpful to y'all. This is transferring it into a really large bowl or transferring it into this Dollar Tree basket and using those two things to scoop out of instead of scooping straight out of the trays. I cannot tell you how much that has minimized my cleanup time and the amount of food waste that gets dropped on the floor whenever I'm transferring stuff out of the trays onto the jars. So just want to give you that quick video, and I hope that was helpful to y'all. We have a video on my absolute favorite things to dehydrate, whether it's freeze dryer or the dehydrator, and I'll have that linked somewhere right around here on the end screen in just a second. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.